Yeah, of course we're on the right track. It feels great to finally be on the right track, and it feels great to call yourself an American again. Welcome back. Be sure to subscribe. Let's get right to it. First topic, Trump has signed an executive order in hopes to secure our elections. Go ahead, take a look at the clip.
We believe that this executive order is the farthest reaching executive action taken in the history of the Republic to secure our elections. Among numerous other aspects of this executive order, this is going to cut down on illegal immigrants on the voter rolls, ensure that the Department of Homeland Security and the data that they have available is being fully weaponized to ensure that illegal immigrants aren't voting. This will include a citizenship question on the federal voting form for the first time. This executive order instructs the EAC to cut federal funding to states that don't take reasonable steps to secure their election. This calls on the Department of Justice to vigorously prosecute election crimes, particularly in states that we don't believe are in compliance with federal law around election integrity. I could go on and on for a while, sir, but compliance with National Election Day rules, cracking down and investigating and prosecuting foreign interference in our elections, revoking President Biden's Executive Order 14019, which essentially weaponized government to corrupt and pollute our election process. There's a lot in here, but we believe that these are very important steps that we need to be taking as an administration at your direction to ensure that our elections are as secure as they possibly can be.
Okay. So I don't really know where this whole, asking for voter ID thing became racist. Obviously, that's a Democrat ploy to get their illegals to vote. But anybody who, suggests that a black person can't get an ID or, it's harder for people in, bad communities to get in. It's all bullshit, right? That's all bullshit. That is racist in itself. That's the only racist thing about the elections, is if you claim that a black person can't get an ID and we just can't ask anybody for ID. But see, this is the thing. Obviously what they're doing, right, is they wanted to let as many illegals as possible in and just send them to swing states so that they all vote Democrat because they're going to be given all their benefits, and then you never have a fair election again, folks. And now you realize why this past election was the most important election in the history of America, because had Trump not won, the border would still be wide open and we'd just be getting flooded with illegals of who knows who they are, criminal illegals that they're going to vote Democrat because they're just going to send them to all the swing states, and that's it, right? That's it. And if people couldn't see that, especially the whole, oh, no, you can't ask for voter ID, fucking bullshit like that, then you're just a moron, right? You are the moron, and you need to rethink the way you are thinking about life. Because, there's no such thing as racism when asking for an ID when it comes to vote. It's either you're a citizen, so you get to vote, or you're not, so get the fuck out of here, right? You don't go to a polling place. But all right, let's get to the next topic. So Americans are just loving the direction that the country is going, and everybody's thinking we're on track. Go ahead, take a look at the clip.
Let's take a look at the percentage of the country who say that we're on the right track. It's actually a very high percentage when you compare it to some historical numbers. What are we talking about? According to Marist, 45% say that we're on the right track. That's the second highest that Marist has measured since 2009. How about NBC News? 44%. That's the highest since 2004. Wow. The bottom line is the percentage of Americans who say we're on the right track is through the roof. And if you were to compare it to when presidents have historically been reelected, of course, Trump is not constitutionally eligible to run for re-election, but I think it sort of puts it in perspective. 42% of the country says the country is on the right track when the incumbent party is re-elected. And also keep in mind, back when Kamala Harris lost and the Democrats were turned out of power, only about 27 to 28% of the country said the country is on the right track. The bottom line is right now, a much higher percentage of the country says we're on the right track.
Of course, Trump's setting record numbers of people thinking we're on track. Basically, it was the highest number since the Obama era, which everybody was forced to pretend like the country was great because we have this new black president, right? So we've voted for change. But yeah, basically everything Trump is tackling these days is, 80-20 issues like the border and crime and not wanting men to play in women's sports. These are just common sense issues that people like to pretend to, say isn't a big deal, or no, I'm not for that. They are all for it, right? protecting the border, getting the illegals out of here, no men and women's sports. The majority of people agree with those stances, right? They don't want illegals all over their neighborhoods. They don't want crime. They don't want to be sending all their taxpayer dollars to Ukraine, you know, and they don't want us getting railroaded in freaking trade too. That's once people realize how the tariffs are going and how they work, they're gonna be like, oh yeah, we're cool with that too. We like that. But yeah, so of course everybody's like, yeah, we're headed in the right track, because these are 80-20 issues, folks, and majority of them are probably more like 90-10, right? When you really get down to it, the men and women's sports thing, that's basically a 95-5 issue. So, yeah, of course we're on the right track. It feels great to finally be on the right track, and it feels great to call yourself an American again. But all right, let's get to the next topic. Trump has officially pardoned Hunter Biden's ex-business partner, Devon Archer. Go ahead, take a look at the clip.
First, we have a pardon for Devon Archer. Devon Archer was a former business partner of the Biden family. He's was prosecuted relating to a fraud investigation, but notably, the tone and tenor of that prosecution changed dramatically after he began to cooperate with congressional investigators and serve as a witness against Hunter Biden and the Biden family. We believe that was an injustice, and therefore we're asking you to pardon him.
And many people have asked me to do this. I think he was treated very unfairly. And I looked at the records, studied the records, and he was a victim of a crime, as far as I'm concerned. So we're going to undo that. All right. That's Devon Archer. Congratulations, Devon.
Yeah, so I guess what happened with this guy is that, you know, once he started cooperating with authorities and letting them know how big of a POS Hunter Biden is and the Biden family, he ended up getting railroaded, right? And by the judicial system. And if there's anybody who knows about getting railroaded, it's Trump. So he's going to make this right, especially when it's somebody who's blowing the lid off his political adversary, you know, his whole family, and exposing how corrupt and just terrible the family is. But yeah, it's good to see that Trump is a fair guy. He's like, oh, has this guy got railroaded politically you know, for political motivations? Of course, yeah, let's go ahead and, you know, get this guy pardoned, because Trump's not going to stand for that. And this is how it should be, right? Lady Justice is blind. They just look at the facts. It doesn't matter whose family you're going up against or who you are or where you come from. It's boom. You're getting a fair trial, and that's how it needs to be in America. If you're not getting a fair trial in America, we don't really have America anymore, folks. If people could just be railroaded by the judicial system, we're screwed. We're totally screwed. But all right, let's get to the next topic. High school girls basketball coach Jim Zulo has been fired for pulling one of his players' ponytails. Go ahead, take a look at the clip. All right, so in a situation like that where the guy touches the player, yeah, obviously you gotta be fired. And especially pulling a ponytail, dude, what are you doing? Man, it's a high school age girl and you're pulling her ponytail. But see, here's the thing. Yes, anytime a coach touches a player, strikes a player, that should be immediate firing. But we can't get away from the old days of, you know, a coach who's just a hard ass, right? I feel like the pussification of America is causing it so coaches can't even be hard asses where they yell at the players. Hell, I don't even care if a player cusses at players, right? Or if a coach cusses at their players. As long as they're not really verbally assaulting a player, you know, then that's where the line kind of gets drawn. But yeah, if somebody's like, hey, you're dragging ass out there, you know, pick up the pace, or what the fuck are you doing? Pick it up. You know, I don't have a problem with that. But yeah, in this situation, the guy struck the player, or they didn't strike the player, but he touched the player. So yeah, you got to be fired. But yeah, I don't want to see coaches lose the ability to be a hard ass and, you know, get people to try hard, work hard, and, you know, use a little bit of persuasion, I guess, if you want to say, or just, you know, being a hard ass, dude. Being a hard ass. I feel like America is getting away from the hard asses when those are the types of people, especially in a situation like sports, right? At a level where you have to make the team, say high school and up. We need some hard asses that are, you know, molding these young kids to learn how to win and lose, right? It's very important because especially in today's world, when you're seeing it, every kid got a trophy and now these government employees can't even write an email where they list 5 things they did last week. Like, that's like something they think is just uncalled for, that an employer would ask them to do anything, right? So yeah, the guy obviously needs to be fired, but we can't get away from the coaches that are the hard asses and that are really trying to instill a culture in a team and, you know, make his players the best they could be on and off the field, right? But all right, that's it for today. Be sure to like, subscribe, and we'll be seeing you.